Hello there, I'm Paul. So I've entitled this video, How Our Deepest Struggles Have Empowered Us and Shown Us Our Light. An exploration. What do I mean by that? So I'll speak from my experience, and I've come a long ways because at one point, a lot of these things defined me and basically harmed me, and stated that they were harming me. But as I burned in the fire of all the things I didn't like, I've simmered and burned off the negatives, and I will tell you from my truth that the darkest dark is the lightest light. The darkest things that ever happened in my life had a redirect in my life that improved my life, but at the time I hated it and I was disgusted by it and it hurt me. We're all in that journey, whether you like it or not. So let me discuss a few of them. So some of my earliest memories about women and family life, etc., were set by my mom and dad. And I've spoken about this. My mother was quite traumatized as a child with sexual abuse and other things. And I got to pick all those things up. Also, the fact that my mother was heavily traumatized made her attract a husband that had his own issues and expected heavily traumatized and thought that that was safe. And it went into my life and created partners and relationships and ex-wives and other things that were that same reflection. So I got to be and see and expect from my earliest training or witnessing of the divine feminine, a mother who was very hurt and wounded, and from the moment I was conceived, on the wedding night, I'm assuming there's some trauma and all that too, and was born to this woman from the first act of sexuality between my parents, which it just kind of is humorous to me now that I look back at it. And then I was poured in all the lineage trauma from my parents into my ear, and all the stories and all the beliefs and my grandparents and their parents and their parents and all this kind of stuff. And I got an experience that at many points in my life I would have called hell. But how do we reshape ourselves? We burn in the sacred fire, or Kali energy, and we burn by getting repeatedly doused in all these stories, all these shames, all these discomforts that our parents had, that our life had, and then we replay them until we're eventually at the point where we burn so much that we're finally ready to no longer burn, and we make a choice. This couldn't have happened. This inner scourging, this inner awareness couldn't have happened if I hadn't come from those crazy roots. And that's the same thing that may be happening for you. Those wounds that my parents had have been seen, witnessed, and transformed through me alchemizing them within me, and now I can understand them. I can be aware of the reasons for painting myself that way, and why my parents did that as well. I also went through experiences where I rose fast and I had a corporate job as an engineer and made a ton of money, and basically the company went bankrupt out from under me. I took the 3D reality of having a great pension, working for a great company, working my ass off, giving my heart and soul to this business, and it went bankrupt out from under me. It basically, my whole foundation, my whole life dropped out over a very short period of time. And shortly after that, my marriage failed. I basically saw that I was codependent with my wife and attached and a whole bunch of things. She was as well. and it wasn't serving me. It was actually killing me. My guidance was that if I didn't divorce my wife, and some people may be triggered by this, within 5 months I would be dead of a heart attack, because I was giving and giving and giving and giving and not getting anything back, and she was just comfortable and happy and completely unawake. So the divorce saved my life, but it also created the biggest scourge and the most pain and suffering I've ever experienced in my life. I lost half of my stuff, and I had to give half of it to her, and she came with nothing. And yes, she was the mother of my children, and we have 3 boys, and magical, beautiful things. To have 3 boys and to move through those experiences, to have her have 4 men in the house after having been traumatized by men most of her life, is probably a very huge lesson for her. To then go through all of what's been going on now, the CV, and losing my business, losing my rental home, losing my beloved truck. If I go back and I look at these things, the truck, for example, I was at a point that my business had been destroyed, and I had a $2,000 a month payment for that truck, and I had a car accident with it, which wrote it off. It hurt me, and it was suffering and pain, and the insurance companies and all the bullshit and all this kind of stuff. But it got me out of that truck. It gave me enough money to pay off what was left on the truck, and gave me $6,000 more that allowed me to buy a used Ford Escape. So I now own my own vehicle. I will never have to worry about payments or the other things again. And it got me out of a really nasty situation with the credit that was happening. The loss of my marriage, well, it got me into self-loving myself. It was a hard journey for the last 12 years of understanding codependence, and even the relationships that came afterwards that were filled with codependence and pain and suffering, which isn't love. That's 3D love. But still, somewhere in my heart, through all of this and the pursuits of 3D love and what my parents taught me about love and other things, I held on to an unconditional love for myself. And by holding on to that unconditional love, it has given me this light, this power. The loss of my business, it was in service to other people, in busyness, being busy, serving other people, pleasing other people, to make money, to be able to feed a system that doesn't serve me, etc. It basically smashed me and basically sent me reeling. But I no longer had a time schedule every day. I no longer had to be at somebody's place and please them and fix their problems and resolve things for them. I found myself. Literally, these things, a house that I lost, they were all literal 3D anchors that were pulling me back. A house is filled with bills and payments and fixing and taxes and power bills and internet bills and water bills and whatever. I moved out of those things, and I started to see that those things didn't serve me. Yes, I had problems with landlords, problems with all this other kind of stuff, until I took my power back. The last landlord I've had screwed me around. Some of the landlords that I've had are the most little boy, power-hungry little people in the world. But I learned to stand up for myself and communicate and say, no more. You're not going to talk to me like that. Everything that I called myself victim to, credit crises and CVs and all this kind of stuff, all had a purpose. They frickin' pushed me into the fire even more. They pushed me into becoming aware of what I couldn't see and what had been poured into my ear as a child from my parents, from my program, from my religion, from my government, from my schooling. And basically, I just started to realize by self-love, that first acts of self-love that I took, that these things weren't serving me. And they had to fall apart. And I'm now at a point where a lot of my friends, a lot of my family, a lot of everything is being seen in their truth. The last time I was at my parents', my dad broke into, there's 11:11 on my clock. My dad broke into yelling and screaming at me because I triggered him and I was holding him accountable to some of the stuff that he was doing. And it took me back to my childhood where he yelled and screamed at me for no reason. When he was mad, he had a bad day at work, all this kind of stuff. He screamed at me about vegetables. Made me terrified of masculine presence, terrified of being in my power. I now look at it and I stood up, and when he did that, I said, shut the fuck up. And a lot of people say, well, that's not nice to say to your parents or whatever. No, the part of him that was a wounded child and was expressing himself without any accountability needed a shake. needed a hard reflection, I got to do that out of that. Like, talk about full circle, some of this stuff. An 8-year-old boy being yelled at and screamed at by his dad finally stands up to him at 54 years old. And my dad's in his almost 80. I didn't do it to hurt him. I did it to reflect back to him what he was putting into the world, and how being a constant victim and blaming everybody else and getting pissed off because everybody else is causing you pain and suffering is your own suffering. Of a reflection for me. And I got to reflect for him. How is this happening in your life? Who is scourging you? Who's bothering you? Who's pissing you off? They are your best teachers at this time. You may call yourself victim to them and, oh, they're a perpetrator and they're awful and they're ugly and they're whatever. I'm going to tell you right now, you joined with that person to learn something about yourself. It's been crazy lately. I've lost pretty well all of my friends. My kids won't talk to me, all this kind of stuff. Not because I'm bad, but my son is a reflection of me, my oldest son. He is going through the same journey as I am. I feel like he's more my brother sometimes than my son. He basically got harmed by the divorce. And when I got sick, I thought I was having a stroke and all these other things, and had a big medical scare, which was another reflection that I can go into, that basically took me back into my power, and not believing a medical system and a bunch of doctors and other things that want to fill me with pills that aren't going to help me. They're actually going to slowly poison me. But he got pissed off because I missed an MRI appointment, and they phoned him as my next of kin or whatever, because they couldn't reach me. And all of a sudden, all this stuff, he phoned me up and he just started venting at me about stuff that I realized was the divorce. He was 12 when the divorce happened. He didn't deserve that. I had that experience with him. But we call in all the experiences. We call in our parents. I did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong. It was all the experience of the system, the illusion, the stuff replaying, telling me that I was suppressing my kids, or that not loving myself meant that I had to sacrifice myself for my kids. And a lot of people lived in sexless marriages, in situations where they should have divorced a long time ago, and suffered and struggled because they wanted to protect the kids. Well, I wasn't in a physical place where I could even think about protecting the kids. Can you imagine? You're going to die within the next 5 months. So at the same time as I'm worried about hurting my kids, I'm worried about what are my kids going to do without a father. So this whole journey, this whole game is perfect. Whether you think you're in suffering, you're bad, or things aren't good, or whatever, it's perfect. It's been feeding you. It's been burning you like the phoenix. And I see it every day. Why do you think I smile so bright? And people have been saying it on my Facebook page lately. Because I went through the hottest fire. How good is your steel unless you've been through the hottest fire? It's you can't go into the fire, out of the fire. You got to burn that steel until it's continuously the same heat and temperature, and then you quench it in water and cool everything off, and then that's tempered, and that metal doesn't shatter. Well, my metal doesn't shatter anymore. I stand up to everything that shows up. The stuff that would have been hell for me at one point in my life, I now can face in a moment. I'm losing my friends. I'm having friends that have unclear communication, and then they're holding me accountable and getting their secretaries to phone me to confirm appointments and other stuff because they're too busy and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, what the hell is going on here? These self-important people that I thought were friends have been using me. I have a friend I go for walks with on a regular basis, and all he ever talks about is how awful his life is, and his ex-wife and his kid died, and all this kind of stuff. And I keep reflecting for him. It's like, you're in a loop here, man. You're in a struggle. Well, it's got to the point I've reflected that a few times, and now we never have time for each other. It just never works out. I walked by him. He was doing these hills, and he was attracted and talking to somebody at the bottom of the hill. Didn't even see me. Hasn't phoned me, hasn't connected with me, because I think our service to each other is complete. So everything has a purpose. Every person, everything everything that's falling away is opening up space for something new. And I'm seeing it. And my relationships have been destroyed for a very long time, but I was a wounded little boy. Who would have wanted to have a relationship with me up until that point? But until I've taken that back in me and I stand in my power, things have changed. I'm starting to meet people that are attracted and drawn to me, and I give them a hug and they just like relax in my arms. Because my nervous system is mine and it's safe and it's no longer that triggering thing. I'm now attracting people that I can be benefit to, and they can be benefit to me, but not in a scourging, burning me down kind of thing and a reflection of my mother, because I've dealt with my mother shit. I've faced the inner demons of my lineage trauma, and they're not allowed to ever come back again. I faced them in my mother's eyes and said, "You will never touch me again." It scared the hell out of my mother, but I saw what was inside. Her eyes turned black, and there was somebody else in there, because we all have lineage traumas. We all have stuff that's programmed into us, and it's floating around in our shadow of our nervous system, and we don't even know it's there. So I'm facing them every day. Facing the dragons. It's actually fun after a while. Once you lean into the discomfort, you will start to be passionate about, oh, that feels icky in my body. What's going on? Something showed up yesterday. I'm trying to sell my Awakening 101 package, and all these roadblocks came up. And, I crashed hard, and I was so sad and whining and stuff like that. But that was my ego trying to protect me, keep me out of money, because it wants to keep me safe, and puts all these distractions up in front of me so that I'll stop and I'll give up and I'll cry and I'll whimper, and it gets its power back. My ego doesn't serve me in that way anymore. It's an advisor. And it is not my protector anymore. I'm my protector. I'm the protector of my little boy. I'm protector of my self-love. Through all these fiery pieces of shit that should have destroyed me into tiny little pieces over and over and over again, I discovered that I'm powerful. I can survive anything, and I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to lead people. I'm ready to show by my example. I'm ready to love the world. But the stories I get from all these people and things around me that I allied with or whatever is all falling away, because the muck and the mud and distortion is going away. What does Rumi say? The crack is where the light shines in. So I'm literally just smashing myself on a regular basis, and these cracks are appearing. I'm in bright orange today. Why am I in bright orange? That's my sacral chakra. I'm living in my physicality now, and I'm excited about it. And I am ready for the abundance to flow in. I am not cutting it off. I am not hiding from my true light, because I love myself and I love you, and I want everybody to have the same knowledge, the same fire, the same excitement within themselves, because it will change your life. These flames are not burning me. Do I look like I'm burned? Do I even look flushed or red? No, they are my natural state, in fire, in passion, in love, in excitement, in growth. Because before, I was a piece of turd on the ground, all covered in muck. And that's what I thought about myself. I'm not shaming myself. But at that time, I was covered with poop and all the stories of my parents and all the stories of my lineage trauma and all this kind of stuff. And I finally stuck my head out, and I'm a rose. Does a guy want to be a rose? Well, I'll tiger lily, whatever. But I'm here. I'm a beautiful orchid that only survived through struggle, that cracked the rock, that basically was sown on the path, fell off the path with a mustard seed, if you want to go back to biblical stuff. And I flourished. Are you flourishing? All the crap you've grown in, all the struggle you've been in, or whatever, has been fertilizer to your soul, and getting your soul back on the path and becoming awakened and aware of what's going on. And I have a drive to give that gift to other people. The Awakening 101 package I'm about to release is going to change everything for people. It's basically all my intention, all my light, all my love, all my beauty and passion, and every modality I've ever learned is all combined into one small package that won't cost you a lot of money, and you can use weekly. Do it once a week. Breathe into it. It's not something like fix this in me, fix that in me. No, it's just say freedom and abundance and I love you and you love you and all these things, and leaning into everything that shows up. And as you do it, you peel the onion until one day the dam bursts forth and it's like, ooh, ooh, that was icky, ooh. But I have all the tools now to be able to deal with them, and you're going to be transformed, alchemized. It's an inner fire that we're stoking. Alchemizing means sometimes you got to burn things in a stone crucible at 3,000 degrees Celsius and add a few little bits of information into it or some chemicals, and all of a sudden that gold becomes purified. Sodium bicarbonate goes into that gold while it's boiling at 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit, and all the black stuff on the top is your trauma, is your dross, is the impurities. You are being purified. Don't even get me started about talking about sacred sexuality and how that'll even purify us more. Because we're supposed to go into these alchemical containers. These things are suppressed for a reason, so that we do not become sexual or too pleasured or burn in our chemical fire with a partner, because they're scared of us. They want to block us. If we are not held back and suppressed by all this bullshit that they poured in our ear and in our society and in our collective reality or whatever, they will lose. Because people will wake up and say, bullshit, I'm not accepting this anymore. That's what I'm doing. I stand outside the box. I don't live in credit. I don't live in the games. I live as gently and as meagerly as possible, because living outside the box would get you smashed for a long time. But I'm not going to get smashed anymore. They're not allowed in. I will be rewarded for the light that I've shone. And many, 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 many people on this planet are going to have to step out of their self-suppression, their self-worth issues, their self-blame, their trauma. And I'm just giving you the fuel to light your fire. Yeah, it may seem uncomfortable, and I watch people come and go and drop off the live. It's okay. I found a way. Come see me. I'm more than happy to show you the way, or buy my Awakening 101 package, and you'll be surprised. Truth and light shone into a product of verbal sounds and vibration will transform you. That's simple. There's nothing added to it. It's all my voice. There's a little hum of the computer in the background of the fan. That's all there is. I thought about putting binaural beats in and all these other kinds of things. I want it to be natural and pure, and it's absolutely my energy and my intention and my self-love that you're participating in. So, I love you. Your biggest scourges are the very things that are refining and purifying and tempering you into being in your full self. You got this. I love you. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.